Good evening. This is Dylan doing his week 4 milestone turn in. Um, so I was a little confused this past week with the critique I got for week 3. Christian Torado, I know that you commented and left the video feedback for that. And it was on the stuff that I had turned in for week 1. I'm still not sure if that was an error on my part, if I had set the wrong link in there, or what was going on. I know I emailed you about it to see if I can clear that up, but I never heard back from you. And I know Mr. Norm was out of town, and me and him had talked about me moving on to prepping for rendering for my demo reel. And so, I've kind of, that's all I've done this week is rendered, because I hadn't heard anything back. So I took what I had in Maya and what I had set up, and took my 2 final models. Now, of course, the bear in Maya has X-Gen fur on him. He is completely covered, so I didn't use any sculpting, anything at all. I just ended up going the X-Gen route because I finally got it figured out. So let me go to Maya and open that up real quick. And I did what I could to put some kind of demo reel test together. But with such a quick turnaround from last turn into this one, I only had so much time to render. So in the end, I was only able to scrounge up enough time to render 24 frames of each of my bear and the bust. My bear was averaging about an hour a frame, so it took a whole day. And then Gary Oldman was taking about 40 to 50 minutes a frame, so that took about 16, 17 hours. And then my bear render, I didn't notice until after it was done earlier today when I was working on editing, that the 2 of the frames did not render properly, and they messed up, so it causes a skipping jump even though I tried to reformat them and get that fixed. It causes a jump in my animation, so I definitely got to go back and fix that. The Gary Oldman one came out smooth. It's just not as crisp as I'd like it. There's still a lot of noise, even though I was using super high render settings. I use the same for each, or I probably should have used more samples. I was using max samples of 1024, minimum samples of 64 to try and get rid of as much of that, the noise that's left. So, but yeah, I went through and just rendered out what I had as best I could with the time I had, and just trying to get everything looking right. I mean, so, my bear, he's completely covered by fur. And I know I need to, especially if I'm going to have him displayed without fur, I need to maybe tweak some of the secondary forms. So my fur display is what I wanted to focus on for this one. I decided to go that route. And then, the problem I was having with the camera here is when it got to frame 8, the render base wasn't big enough, and so it had caught, and actually when the camera was panning around, it was panning outside of the box, so it just was a black render. So that was my fault. I just didn't, the box wasn't big enough like I thought it was, and I scrubbed through, but as you can see, it gets kind of buggy because it's so dense. And then there's a problem with frame 16 as well. It kind of jumped out of place, so it just didn't look right. So I mean, but only being able to render out the 24 frames per second of each gave me this, which is very quick. It's not enough to actually admire it, but it's enough to get a little bit of something. So I mean, I can scrub through it slow, and I mean, they were really good renders for the most part. There's just a lot of there is still a bunch of noise around the edge, not so much in the middle. And but you know, these are the images I'm finishing up with, and you know, they turned out pretty good for the time I had. Same with Gary Oldman. He didn't turn out as clear as I wanted, but he did turn out pretty good. I'll play this one through for you. It's pretty fast, and then I'll just kind of scrub through it for you, you know. But I wasn't entirely clear on what's due this week. If our demo reel is due today, or if it's due later in the week or next week before graduation, or if that's something we can continue working on after. So I just I was running renders as fast as I could for these, trying to get those done. But you know, laptop with 16 gigs of RAM can only go so fast. So you know, I was going as fast as possible, trying to, or I mean, as fast as my computer would let me, to get those renders done. And I had double checked the settings, you know. So I did run into some issues, like always. You know, it's kind of normal for people in this industry, I guess. So, but I wanted to turn this in and show you that I actually had, you know, worked on something and put together a test demo reel, which is very choppy. And just let you know that I'm going to continue working, you know, even with this, I'm going to continue working on making it better, and making it more presentable, you know, because I know that something like this is not going to give me a job, but I also know that something like this is, you know, what I had time for. And but yeah, if I could get in touch with one of you guys in the next couple of days, clear up some of this confusion on what's going on that's happening right now at the end, I'd appreciate that, just to kind of figure out where I need to go next. Alright, thanks. Bye.